Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nugentino Cinema. And today I'm here with Doug Nagy of Film Junk fame. How are you today, Doug?
Doing great, Drew. I'm very excited to be on your show, and thank you so much for asking me to participate in such a wonderful movie with and such a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for doing it. Like, it's awesome to have you on. Part of what I wanted to pick this movie, which is the Beastmaster, we're gonna review the Beastmaster today, is I remember back in the day, like going way back, if people who are like longtime Film Junk listeners remember, you used to do the Macho Man movie review. I think that's what it was
Yes, the
called.
Macho
Uh,
movie review with Steve Wintle, where we did sword and sandal reviews.
yeah. And so I thought it'd be fun to like pick something that was like Sword and Sandal-esque, but I always
Mhm.
loved that series. That was really cool. Were y'all reviewing it from like a big like 50 pack of movies? I think I was listening to
Yeah,
episodes recently.
there's a Warriors 50 pack, and I still have it upstairs. I think we only got like 12 in, but there's a ton of movies. It's very, very good value, and a lot of the movies are like real bad, but then there's some gems that are nine
Hmm.
out of tens. So like it's if you like that genre, it's worth digging through all the trash to find the treasure. And yeah, some good stuff. And it's always fun to go back in time to dig through movies that you don't have a lot of information about necessarily, right? So you're taking a chance. It's almost like going back to the video store when I was a kid, anyway, and you would pick something on off the wall because you like the cover and you hope for the best. And sometimes you were surprised and delighted, and sometimes you were ashamed and felt sorrow that you had to wait another week to pick a movie. But that's the way it went, and it was fun for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely loved. I don't have like, I went to the video store when I was a kid, maybe not as much, but
Mhm.
like I remember going to Hollywood Video and Blockbuster.
Yeah,
But like by the time I was going to video stores, it was like already moved over to DVDs, so I wasn't renting VHS. Although I did collect VHS when I was a kid. Just because I don't know why, but yeah. But this is probably the Beastmaster is like a classic in terms of video store movies. I'm sure for many people.
yeah.
I know it also played on HBO all the time. I think HBO was known as like I think the acronym was Hey Beastmaster's on or something like that.
That's funny.
Because it was I'm stealing that. That was from they talked about that on the Film Junk because I think Film Junk talked about the Beastmaster on their 80s Fantasy Premium. But I saw this movie for the first time only a few years ago, and I think like 2020 I saw it on YouTube, but then it ended up being released by Vinegar Syndrome on 4K,
Mhm.
and I watched that eventually. So I've seen it a few times now. I think this is maybe like my fourth time watching it. But yeah, so I enjoy it quite a bit. But do you have any history of this movie? Did you see it when you were younger or anything like that?
So I saw it when it came out when I was a real young kid, and I remember my dad's buddy Terry had a VHS player. We didn't even have a VHS player yet. We would rent one periodically, and that's a story for another time. But we would go to Terry's to watch movies sometimes, and he had Beastmaster, and I remember watching it as a kid. And what's funny is the parts that I remembered, the parts that stood out, were also my favorite parts when I rewatched it for this
Yeah.
podcast, right? So it's just interesting that the stuff that I liked, I still like, and the stuff that I forgot was for a reason. So yeah, it was
Yeah.
neat to kind of have almost a 40-year gap between viewings and have different perspectives, right? But it was so I do have a history with the movie. It's probably one of the first movies I saw at home or at somebody's
Mhm.
house as a kid, right, on VHS. I didn't see it in the theater. I wouldn't have been allowed to get in. But yeah, I remember seeing it at Terry's house. So Terry Collins, what's up? Thank you for the memories.
That's awesome. So what were your favorite parts from like, from childhood and up till now?
So favorite parts of the movie. What I'll say is that I think it had a real good second act, right? Like I think it didn't really sink its hook into you in the beginning as much as other movies of the genre. In the end, it seemed to have too many endings, and we can get into that later.
Yeah.
But I really do like the bat. I don't know what their names are. These like the bat dudes that kind of wrap their arms around people, shake up, and then spit out the bones and the armor. Uh, those guys are really, really cool. And I remember them as a kid. I remember really enjoying them, just thinking like, that's crazy. And I've always remembered that, like, as being just really mysterious, strange, different kind of characters, right? In a movie.
Yeah.
And I love them again this time. And I love the standard Beastmaster stuff that he can kind of like talk to and control animals with his mind. So that's where the movie gets its namesake, but it's also something that's fun. I like that crazy berserker guy in the gimp gear in the castle. He stood
Yeah.
out when I was a kid. He stood out this time. I like the camaraderie between the heroes when they meet with the is it the cat is in the pit and they both help get him out and they establish their friendship in that scene. That's a good scene. And yeah, that's the kind of stuff I like. And there was a training montage that I didn't remember that I like as well, where he's kind of training with a log until he's strong enough to use the sword without danger. So I thought those are some of the things that I liked. I'll throw it over to you, my friend. What kind of tickled your fancy?
Yeah, those were all great moments, and I think it definitely. You mentioned sort of the bat characters being strange characters, and I think the movie has a really interesting kind of strange vibe to it. There's like really strange stuff throughout. Like at the beginning, you have just them like these like witches that end up having like really
Mm-hmm.
like young female bodies, but with these like horrible witch masks. Um, but they're like pulling the baby out of a cow, and
Yeah,
it's just like a really strange vibe. And
yeah,
that
that's cool
scene is
too.
interesting. It's like kind of a weird opening. I love Rip Torn in it.
Yeah,
He is a good villain, and it's just sort of like balls out. Like there's not like some of the stuff in this movie is like almost kind of shocking. Like him just like like hitting a kid in the face with like a pole to shove him into like a fire pit. Um,
hmm
and then like one scene that always kind of got to me was the scene where his dog friend at the beginning is like shot by the arrow. The dog's like trying to save him,
yeah,
and then like he like wakes up and the dog's dead, and he like lays it down like with like his
yeah,
village people, and he like burns it in that circle thing he has. But that was a really effective thing, I think. And yeah, I just love, like you said, like I love I thought the heroes have a good camaraderie, like you said, and I also like I love the Beastmaster stuff. I love Kodo and Podo, the weasels. I think they're
hmm
the best. And I find the first scene where or not the first scene with them where he's like sinking into the
yeah. That's good.
sand pit, yeah, and then he has to like save the weasel who saved him. That was a good scene. Um, and you know what's that? Is it Tanya Roberts who's the main actress? I think
I
she was
don't.
good.
Yeah.
That might be getting her name wrong, but and then I think John Amos, who was on what is that sitcom that he was on? Uh, I forget, but he was a sitcom star.
hmm
Different Strokes, maybe. Um, but yeah, I thought they were all good. I love the Black Tiger, and yeah, I think it's just like a really fun movie in general. But like you said, like there is like a good or not good. I'm sorry. Like there's a. It feels like the movie wraps up at a certain point, but then there's like a second ending. I don't like that so much, but I still feel like the movie's pretty good overall.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I like the genre, but it was really too bad because like so much action is happening at the temple. They got the berserker guy. They really could have wrapped it up at the castle, and I think it would have been a much better movie. I like the sacrifice stuff where they're poking the stick down into the fire, right? And they're trying to like burn the kids up. Like who doesn't like that? But it's that could have been done maybe at another part of the movie, like earlier on, right? Showcase the sacrifice if they want to. I feel like too much was tacked on at the end, where it really seemed like there was a good opportunity for conclusion, or like match the two together somehow, right? Where the bad guys come into the castle and help them, and they don't have to escape, but they just take it over, that sort of thing. I don't know. It just really seemed to drag at the end, and that's too bad. One other thing that I just wanted to mention quick that I forgot was, and I remembered was since I was a kid, was the eyeball ring. The eyeball ring is just really, really neat. It's a cool magical trinket. And like you said, too, when they transfer the baby to the belly of the cow and the cow gives birth, just really neat magical type items, really neat magic use in this movie. So there's a lot of sword and sandal films, but there's not too many where the magic is done well. And I think one of the best things about this as a story is the involvement of magic that's done in very creative ways, right? So it's interesting, it's cool. It's not just like fireballs. It's ingenious sort of artifacts, trinkets, and witchery.
Yeah, for sure. I thought the witchcraft stuff was good. I thought it was interesting. It had like a kind of a classic hero's journey arc. I was sort of reminded of Superman at points, just in the way that he's originally, the son of these other people, and then he like ends up being taken in by this guy who saves him from the witches. That sort of reminded me of like a Clark Kent sort of journey. And it also is like Star Wars, and he has like a Luke Skywalker vibe. And I thought it was a good, just general, like hero's journey plot. So I enjoyed that part of it.
Lead was in really great shape for the role. He was ripped up, like everybody's looking good. It was, I like the movie. Like, it's not a perfect movie, but I enjoyed it very much. And certainly think it's a must watch for anybody who's digging through the movies of this genre for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, it's a lot of fun. It's directed by Don Coscarelli, who directed Phantasm. Have you seen that one?
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't. I need to rewatch that. I haven't seen it in a long time, but he's a good director overall. He has an interesting vibe to his films. I think there was actually a sequel to this, like Beastmaster 2, which is like I think he travels through time, which is strange. But I think it's like he comes like to the modern day. I've never seen it either, but it might be interesting to watch though. I think there was actually like a Beastmaster series, which I remember seeing as a kid, like just seeing that on all the time. But but I only saw the movie like recently, and I really enjoyed the movie. I've seen it multiple times, and the Vinegar Syndrome release, if anyone doesn't have that, it's definitely worth it. They have like a great package, and it's a great 4K transfer. But it's cool to see a movie like this, like in such great quality, for sure.
Absolutely.
What are some of your favorite like sword and sandals films?
Well, Conan the Barbarian would be the obvious one. I like Deathstalker 1 and 2. I was a big fan of Deathstalker growing up. Let's see here. The older Steve Reeves Hercules stuff I like. Lou Ferrigno Hercules. These movies. More like sword and adventure, but Jason and the Argonauts is a good one. It's not really sword and sandal, but there's enough sword and sandals where I would maybe put it in the mix. There's a crazy one. What is it? Phoenix the Warrior. Where there's like, it's a futuristic world where all the men are dead and there's like a few men, but the world is ruled by like nomadic sword wielding barbarian women. So Phoenix the Warrior. And then what is it? Barbarian Queen, which stars what's her name? Is her name Lana Clarkson? She was murdered by Phil Spector, unfortunately.
Oh, wow.
But
I didn't know that. I knew Phil Spector was a murderer, but I didn't know he murdered somebody that was on a sword and sandals movie.
Yeah, Barbarian Queen. So I have a really cool Barbarian Queen poster. This is back when I was mounting posters, so I have it mounted. It's pretty awesome. I have a jam room upstairs. It's like an office jam room. So I have like my drums, amps, guitars, and stuff. And it's an attic room, so the ceiling slopes on both sides. So I have it covered in sword and sandal posters. And what is it? I have a really cool Italian Throne of Fire poster, Barbarian Queen. I think it's an Australian version of Barbarian Queen. It's called Amazons. And then Hercules, chained or unchained, I think.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
pretty
Yeah, it's
fancy.
awesome they have
And
those
yeah,
posters. That's pretty cool.
yeah, you know what? I was able to get a couple of them pretty cheap, considering their age, right? And its quality is not huge for me. If it's a little beat up, that doesn't bother me. But I've always liked storytelling with swords, and I don't know why. There's just something romantic about it, right? I guess that's why George Lucas fashioned the lightsabers for the Jedi Knights,
Yeah.
because he still wanted sword play in the movies. And it's like, I don't mind guns either, but there's just something about fighting with swords that's really awesome. And what was the movie a while back that had a really good sword fight scene in front of the volcano? It was a
The
Viking movie,
Northman.
The Northman. Yeah, what was it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was an awesome movie. I need
really.
to rewatch that. I saw it a few times in the theater, but I loved it. Yeah, it was a great movie.
Yeah, it was like, I thought it was just like almost perfect. It's the same complaint I have for so many movies, and that's just like, cut it to 90. Like, to me, like, there are very few exceptions
Yeah.
where a movie's better past 90 minutes.
hmm Yeah, I can understand that. It's always better when a movie's like tighter and it doesn't overstay its welcome. So yeah.
No, man, you want more. The only movie that was really long that I didn't get sick of for a long time was the most recent Dune. Like, when that wrapped up, it did not feel like I was in the chair that long. I'm like, you know what? I really enjoyed this movie, and none of the time felt like it dragged or was inappropriate. So I thought they did a really good job with that, because it's a pretty
hmm
wordy movie too, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good one, and that's it's coming from like a great director. Have you seen like the David Lynch Dune, like the original Dune, or not the original,
long
but the
time ago.
movie?
Yeah, long time ago.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. I need to read the book. I've never read the book before, but yeah,
No, I haven't either.
yeah. I remember you being a fan of like to talk more about some sword and sandals movies. I remember you being a fan of like barbarian tit movies. I remember that being like a
Yeah,
genre label.
so that's like a loose genre, and this might Beastmaster might be included in them, right? You have barbarians, they may or may not be women, but you also have exploitive and just random uh, boob nudity. So
Yeah.
this might seem silly to everybody now, but it was in the 80s. Pornography was not easy to come by, especially when you're a younger child or a teenager especially, but you still are attracted to the opposite sex. And anytime you can
Mhm.
see sort of nudity, it was a big deal, right? So it's not like today where there's porno on tap 24/7 from every tap in your house. It
Yeah.
was, no pun intended, hard to come by. But it's what happened was, you had these movies that were like action movies with barbarians, or like sword and sandal warriors. And in these movies, more often than not, you would have a scene like in Beastmaster where you stumble upon some maidens having a shower under the waterfall. And it
Yeah.
was a way for them to sneak just toplessness into a movie, and that alone would get a certain demographic to go see the movie or rent it. And Beastmaster really did make its money on the secondary market, which was like late night TV and rental. And part of that is attributed to the fact that word gets out amongst the kids that there's boobs in a movie. And I'm not even joking. This was a thing. You would rent it and you would hope your parents go to sleep before you saw it. And then you would pause it just so you could stare at boobs in the middle of this movie. So this really happened. This really was a thing. It might seem crazy to folks that were born in the new millennia, but it really did happen. And it just so happened that, like, movies that I already liked, sword and sandal movies, like Death Stalker series is one. There was some great topless nudity in that. That and the
Mhm.
second one, and then you had like Phoenix the Warrior, like I mentioned, Barbarian Queen. All these movies have like topless nudity in it, right? And sometimes the women are strong warriors, and I always liked uh, female warriors with swords, Amazon type characters, this sort of thing. So sometimes they were the heroes of the movie. Other times they were just damsels in distress. Sometimes they were both. But often you would
Mhm.
have glorious topless nudity in these movies. So like, my nickname for these types of movies where there was barbarians and breasts was, I would call them barbarian tit movies. And those of us a certain age who grew up with them know exactly what I'm talking about, right? So it's
Does
funny
that
to
does
me.
that term come from you? Like you
Yeah,
coined this term? I didn't
barbarian
realize
tit
that. Like
movie.
I genuinely thought because I had heard Jay talk about this genre and I heard you talk about it later. Well, like on the show on Film Junk. But
Mhm.
like I thought it was like a genre. Like this was like I didn't know that you coined it. Like I thought this was like something that was talked about. Like in the annals of film history.
Yeah, if I can contribute anything to the annals of film history, if it's the tagline "Barbarian Tit Movie," I'll take it because that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. But I remember like it's weird to think about Beastmaster, and it's funny like thinking about like different generations, like young kids watching Beastmaster because I remember Jay talking about on older shows, like being more scared by the nudity than anything else. Being freaked
Yeah,
out by seeing the
sometimes.
nudity in Beastmaster as like somebody who was like 10 or maybe younger. But yeah, I can't imagine a kid now watching something like Beastmaster. It would be crazy.
Well, it's funny. I was watching the movie with a lady friend of mine who's like I'm 46, she's 32, so she's not drastically younger, but she's like, why are we watching the worst movie ever made? So it's not able to keep her attention. And she had very little interest in the movie, right? So maybe it's a slow pace. I don't know. I like the movie, so it's agree to disagree on that one. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if it would stand up today because it is a much slower pace, but that's okay, right? Stories need to be told, and the intro to Conan the Barbarian is one that's done in pictures more than words. And that's a
Mhm.
really good example of why you do want to slow down sometimes when you're telling a story because you don't need all the words, right? Like you can enjoy the scenery. And Wintle and I, about 10 years ago, were lucky enough to see that on the big screen in Toronto. They had some theater in the beaches. I forget the name of it, but they were playing Conan the Barbarian, and I got to see that. And it's a different movie when you see it on a grand vista, like a big screen
Mhm.
in the theater, because you appreciate the backgrounds a lot more, right? So I know a lot of directors are big on backgrounds. Werner Herzog, especially, like he has some great quotes on that. But that's a movie I saw where I was really awed by the backgrounds. And then another one was The Man Who Would Be King. I was able to see on the big screen about let's say 2008, and that's actually the coolest night at the movies ever. It was introduced by Sean Connery, so I got to see him introduce the movie he was in,
Oh wow.
and we'll watch it. That was
Yeah.
rad. That was a rad night. And but yeah, the backgrounds matter, and in Beastmaster you have a lot of background scenes when he's running from the village off to his quest, right? And that's good as well. And for that, it does need to be a slower pace. So I'm all for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here. I mean, it's a little bit of a slower pace, but I still think it has like if people enjoy something like Star Wars, I think they can enjoy this. I mean, I've even noticed like
Yeah.
some people from like newer generations have a hard time watching like the original Star Wars movie, like from 1977. Um, so
Could
yeah, I
be.
guess there's like a little bit of a change of pace to people's attention span or whatever they're willing to watch, like in general. But yeah, I think the Beastmaster is a great movie. I've actually still haven't seen Conan the Barbarian, which I don't know how I haven't seen that yet, but I need to see that for sure.
Oh, bro. Oh, yeah. It's one of the best movies ever. It's real good. It
Mhm.
starts off the forging of a blade, and I won't ruin any more for you, but like it's Schwarzenegger's best role, in my opinion. Like, and I
Mhm.
like Schwarzenegger quite a bit, right? So, uh, yeah, I like him in a lot of movies, but this is the one that for me just it's awesome. He's super pumped. I think he won the Olympia that year. Some contests that he
Oh wow.
shouldn't have. Some contests that others should have won that year for Olympia, but nonetheless, he was able to compete in the Olympia. And if
Mhm.
he should have won or not, I don't know. But he was absolutely huge in Conan the Barbarian. And yeah, like you got to see it within like the next week or so. It's a must.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I know it's directed by John Milius, and he like wrote Apocalypse Now, and then yeah, it's definitely something I need to see. It's on my list of shame for sure. Yeah.
Not not just is the direction good? Like the soundtrack is also possibly the greatest soundtrack to any movie. It's real good. Basil Polidorus, he also did another one that I like for RoboCop, but this is again his best work is in Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah. So is the sequel like not as good, Conan the Destroyer?
No, it's not. Like Conan the Barbarian is like a 10 out of 10 movie. Conan the Destroyer is like a 5, 6 out of 10 movie, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, I was just curious. I haven't seen I've seen I've seen the classic Arnold movies, like I've seen the Terminator movies, I've seen like Predator, um I've seen Last Action Hero. I feel like I've seen a lot of the big ones, but I haven't seen Conan the Barbarian, which is definitely a big one, but yeah. I definitely need to
have you
watch
seen
that very soon.
Total Recall is another one that's incredible. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, I have seen Total
Total
Recall.
Recall is
Yeah,
like
Total Recall is awesome.
and then The Running Man I like too, where he's on a game show. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen The Running Man.
Oh, The Running
No.
Man's good, man. It's like a
Yeah.
futuristic death game. It's real good. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I need to see that. Yeah, but in terms of Total Recall, anything by Paul Verhoeven is great. I mean, RoboCop is amazing, obviously.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, his action movies are awesome. But yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much all I had to say about Beastmaster. Did you have any other thoughts on it?
No, it's I'm really glad that you asked me to do the show. Thank you so much. This is a fun movie to revisit because, like I said, you know what? It's about a 40-year time difference between viewings, but
Yeah.
the bad guys again, the Ring, the magic in this movie. Um, I like the cast too, right? Like, uh, I wouldn't say the movie is perfect, but it's enjoyable. I would recommend it, and it's I would say it's good. Yeah, so it's
Mhm.
if you haven't seen the OG Beastmaster, folks, watch it online or get the 4K version. Keep it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'd recommend it to everybody. It is available on YouTube for anyone who wants to see it, but I would definitely recommend it to anybody. It's a great movie and it's really fun. I also did enjoy the score in this one. It's not like an amazing
Mhm,
score, but I thought it was a good like adventure score
for
and
sure.
had some good music. But I'd probably give it like I don't know a 4.5 out of 5. What would you give
Wow.
it out of 5?
So the file, let's see here. Probably three. Would I do 3.5 or 4? Let's say 4. I'd give it a 4 out of 5.
Oh, okay,
I'll give it.
cool.
I don't want to give it a
Yeah,
3 or round it up.
yeah, yeah. I was surprised you haven't seen it since like you were a kid. It's been like a 40-year time span. It's a lot of time.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, right? I saw it. I'm like, okay, yeah, I've seen Beastmaster, so there's so much else I need to see, right? And I'm trying to go back now and watch a lot of good older movies that I missed. I finally saw Raging Bull at the theater. That was awesome. So I'm trying to catch up on the
That
essentials.
was a first time watch.
Yeah, it was at the
Yeah.
theater by my house. There's a real nice theater that just opened up, Drew, right up the street. They renovated like a 100-year-old theater. It's incredible. It's a single screen, but it's like a half-hour walk straight up the street. So I'm a little bit spoiled. They play good stuff.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's always awesome to have a theater like that, especially close by. That's kind of been like my dream to be able to like walk to a theater, especially one that
Yeah,
plays
man.
classic movies.
Bro, you know what? Like at this point, I just turned 46. So you kind of reflect and it's like, I don't want to try anything new at this point. I just want to enjoy the things I like. And it's very simple. I like Magic the Gathering, watching movies at the theater, eating pussy, playing rock and roll ukulele,
Yeah,
telling jokes, being a dad, right? So like
yeah,
there's a lot to get good at with those. So it's just I want to do what I like to do. I don't need to learn fucking tennis at this point. So yeah, movies hit the spot, and it's always a pleasure to talk about movies with people who love them like yourself, my man.
yeah. You too. Yeah, thank you. And I wish you luck in all of your endeavors. I know you're doing stand up,
Yep.
um, and I wish you luck with that. How has that been going?
It's been going really good. About a year and a half ago, after my divorce, I started working on all new material. So I've been working on that slowly but surely. Can only get up about every 2 weeks because I have my son on the alternating weeks and I have a day job and a career, right? So I'm kind of lost for time a little bit, but I have experience and I've been I've been able to get into good clubs, rework my stuff. Levity Hamilton most of the time. Just started going back to Yuck Yucks Toronto. I'm in talks with them to start getting back into the clubs, which is great. So the idea is by 2015 to have anywhere from a 40 to 45-minute comedy album, put a record out, press it, also release it online for those that want to see, Spotify, that kind of stuff. Have something out there that's done that people can check out. Because I can't really tour from city to city too much, being a dad and having a career, but I can put out albums. So I'm going to focus on that. And I've been doing more podcasting once again, which has been very rewarding, normally with the Film Junk crew. And I'm on TV Junk soon. We're going to review the new Arnold series. So check that out.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be recording that next week. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing that. That sounds good. But yeah, I look forward to hearing your comedy album. I wish you luck with that. That sounds great. And yeah, just thank you again for doing the show. Yeah, it's been really fun.
Always a pleasure, my man. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you everyone for watching and listening to Nugentino Cinema. See you later. Bye.